kind of looks like they're doing some type of Star Wars roleplay because Dewey still has his Chewbacca outfit on. Enough silliness with those two right there. So for breakfast, got a burrito bowl. So we got some refried beans, some salsa, hummus, and then some roasted corn as well. So I'm gonna head over to the job site today and finish leveling off the trailer. So I've got a few more ideas for how I can do it, and let's get to it. I f***ing swear to God, if you guys make fun of my safari hat at all, I'm gonna stop posting vlogs on this channel. Then you're not gonna see any of the construction of this tiny house at all. Just kidding, bro, just kidding. You can make fun of it as much as you want. It's kind of a funny looking hat. It's got the thing in the back here. I am very well protected from the sun now. All right, construction day number 2. Day number 2 of leveling the trailer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna jack up this side as much as possible and bring it up nice and high, and then I'll probably try to leveling the front left corner and the back right corner here to match this one. So what I'm gonna do is Lisa has a bunch of bricks that I can use in order to build up this this side here, so I'm not using so much plywood. That'll be a really nice secure base for, you know, jacking up the trailer on this side. Then what I'm also gonna have to do is bring up the service jack as well, because as it stands right now, it's not gonna be able to reach high enough to bring this corner up to where it needs to be. So I'm gonna have to jack up this and this even higher as well. So I got a layer of bricks, lots of plywood, and then I found these little concrete pads here. So what I'm gonna do is jack the trailer up quite a bit, and then I'm gonna replace those plywood squares with this here. Then I'll just pile the plywood back on top of these concrete pads, so it'll just give me even more height over here. So that corner over there is at a good height. I'm just gonna jack this one up here and get the jack stand underneath. And then I just have to go around to like each and every corner and just make sure that they're all level. Like I know that far one over there, that one's a little low, so I'll have to jack it up and probably put another piece of plywood underneath. And very good, let's do it. Hat is ridiculous. I love it though. So all the corners are pretty well level. I can just put the level pretty well anywhere here, and we can see it's pretty close to level. Some of them are just a little bit off, but it's kind of weird because on this corner here, it should go up and down depending on if I put it on this side or that side. So I'm just gonna leave it where it is. And you can see here that it's jacked up so much that you can spin the wheels. They're totally off the ground right now. One of the main reasons for leveling the trailer, so obviously having a level surface to build on is definitely ideal. But also when you think of the trailer itself, so it's sitting on 2 wheels that are in the middle. So if you're working on one end here, say this end, the wheels are gonna act like a fulcrum to a lever, so the actual like trailer will keep moving up and down based on where the most weight is. So with using the jack stands, it stabilizes the trailer so that it's like a much more solid surface to work on, and that's obviously something that you want. And then the other thing is, like when we park the house and we're actually living in it, like you put the jack stands around each of the corners as well. So it's not just like a temporary thing for like when you're building the house, it's a thing for like when you're actually gonna be living in it as well, because you don't want the house to be cantilevering all over the place based on, you know, who's walking where in the house. Like you don't want the house to obviously be moving. So the jack stands just help stabilize the trailer so it's not moving around. All right, when I get home, I'm gonna talk about the next steps, what I'm gonna be doing next for the tiny house build. How's it going? How's it going? Come on. Another puggle. Looks just like Bubba. Hey there, girl. Was that your new girlfriend there, Bubba? Your little puggle girlfriend? What the heck are you even? Wasn't that just so adorable? It was like an 8-year-old female puggle. She actually lives right here in the complex as well. I've never seen that puggle before. Anyways, I'm gonna take these guys back and then we're gonna talk about the next steps for the tiny house. So with the leveling of the trailer complete, what I can focus on now is the actual construction of the tiny house itself. Now, normally when you buy a set of tiny house plans, what normally comes with it is a material list. But since we're doing our custom plans in SketchUp, SketchUp is not going to be able to generate a material list that we're going to need for the framing and construction of the house itself. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going through all of the layers of the tiny house structure and figuring out all the materials that I'm going to need for the construction of it. So the first place that I started was with the subfloor. So just looking at this model, I can actually go through, use my tape measure, and figure out the length of lumber that I'm gonna need. So this is 7'11", so I can get a 2x4 by 8 foot. Then measuring some of the end points here as well. So that's about 6 foot 4 inches. So I'll need an 8 foot piece of lumber for that. So I can go through this entire model and start counting exactly how many 2x4s I'm gonna need in an 8 foot length, then a 10 foot length, then a 12 foot length, and a 14 foot length. And then on top of that, I need to figure out all the other components and all the other materials that I'm gonna need for the actual construction. So if we go to my material list, we see I got a 2x4 8 foot, so I'm gonna need 27 of those for the subfloor. In a 12 foot length, I'm gonna need 2. Then on the bottom of the subfloor, I need some galvanized steel flashing. So it comes in a roll 20 inches wide and 50 feet long. So I figured out I need about 3 of those. And then when you actually put a material down, you have to think to yourself, how am I gonna cut this piece of material and how am I gonna fasten it? So how am I gonna cut it? I'm gonna need a set of tin snips for that. How am I gonna fasten it? So to attach that flashing to the bottom of the subfloor, what I need is like a staple gun. So just a regular staple gun and a box of T50 staples. So in the subfloor, I'm gonna need the insulation. So I'm gonna get 2-inch rigid foam 4 foot by 8 foot pieces. I'm gonna need 6 of those. Then I'm also gonna need some 3/4 inch rigid foam as well. So when I put that material down, I need to ask myself, how am I going to cut this material? I'm gonna probably just use a circular saw for that. And then how am I gonna fasten it? The rigid foam doesn't need to be fastened, it just sits within the actual subfloor framing. The rigid foam insulation isn't going to fit perfectly within the subfloor joist, so you just need some spray foam that comes in a can, and just spray that in the gaps and the cracks in order to make sure that it's like a very, very tight fit. Once the insulation is in the floor, I'm gonna be putting 3/4 inch tongue and groove plywood on top of that. Then I have to ask myself, how am I going to cut it? How am I gonna fasten it? So I'm gonna cut the plywood using a circular saw, so I already have that. How am I gonna fasten that? So I'm gonna get some subfloor liquid nails. So it's just an adhesive that I will put on the actual subfloor joists. Then I'll lay down the plywood on top of that. And then how am I gonna fasten that? So I'm gonna need 2-inch exterior screws in order to fasten the plywood down to the joists. And then I'm also gonna need a caulking gun to get that adhesive out of the tube. So essentially what I'm doing right now is I'm going through the entire construction process in my head, and I keep asking myself, how am I gonna cut this? How am I gonna fasten it? You could probably ask yourself a third question. Is there anything else that I'm gonna need that's gonna help me along with this? So how do I know how to do this stuff? Is I've watched a lot of videos on tiny houses and I've read a number of books on it, and I'm going back and referencing those same books so that I don't miss anything out in terms of any materials that I'm gonna need. So once my material list is finished, I'm not gonna do the entire house. I'm gonna go from the subfloor to the walls to the roof to the sheathing around the outside, and that's gonna be my first main order from either Home Depot or from Lowe's. I'm not gonna worry about the windows and the doors and the siding and the interior siding and the electrical and the plumbing just yet. I'm gonna just focus on this main construction phase, I guess you could call it, and then focus on those other important parts later on when I'm done with the first phase. As always, if you have any comments or suggestions, leave them down in the box below. We will catch you guys on the next vlog. Hannah's coming back tomorrow, so you'll start seeing her again. Catch you guys on the next vlog. Talk to you soon. Peace!